Let's talk about fees. So many mortgage advisors get so het up about this topic, but this one I'm going to take a little bit of a different view on fees. And I want to talk to you about being clear with your fees and how to make sure that you don't have any kind of awkward conversations with your clients and awkward confrontations, more importantly, with your clients when it comes to fees, because it absolutely can be really awkward. So I've had a client, and this happened quite a while ago, where they actually they charge about £895 for a mortgage. That's roughly, it's just short of £900 for a mortgage, this specific client. And what they did was they actually had somebody come along and they had three mortgages. They had three mortgages that they wanted to do, 3 buy-to-lets. This specific client, they took, I would say pity on them. I don't say pity, but they decided, there's 3 mortgages there. I'm going to do a good deal for them. And they decided they would give them a deal of £1,000 for 3 mortgages, 3 buy-to-lets. Well, fast forward, those 3 buy-to-lets turned to 2 because the son of this person who was buying the house or doing the mortgage, they wanted to buy one of the houses. So now there was only 2 houses in that remortgage. Now, once those remortgages went through, and they all went through and absolutely fine, when the fee came through, which was paid at completion, which I'll talk about that as well as we go through, when that fee came in and they asked for the fee, my client asked for the fee, the actual person came back and said, no, your fees are incorrect. We only did 2 mortgages. And so here is £666, effectively taking off a third because they only did 2 mortgages and they've been quoted £1,000 for 3. Now, bear in mind, this specific client, their fee is $895 for 1, and they do this all the time. This hit pretty hard. And we had a conversation about this in our coaching session, like, how do I deal with it? What can I do? And my answer to this specific individual was, you kind of have to agree to it. You have to do it, because I think if you took this to the ombudsman and you took this to a complaint, they'd probably have, you wouldn't have a leg to stand on. They'd probably have a relatively good point. And because you didn't make it clear, you'd made it clear to them that for 3 mortgages is £1,000. So for 2, obviously that would make sense that 2 mortgages are 666 within reason. Yeah, that would make kind of sense. This is something that people have a lot. This is where if you're ever getting somebody querying your fee, this is just one example of this, happens a lot where people can query that fee, where they might go, do you know what, I pulled out of a house, but it's available on offer, and the house is now pulled out of, and will fell through, and now you're asking them for a fee. This comes up again and again and again. Now, how do you deal with this? Well, really easily, you take this and you use it as a learning experience. First of all, very, very important. Take the hit. Understand that this is usually going to be not because a client is awkward. Yes, they might be a little bit awkward. That's fine. But the reason this is usually happening is it's a breakdown in communication and a lack of clarity on your part. Your terms of business, your TOB, is not clear enough when it comes to your fees. And this is really, really, really common in our industry. It's one of my favorite or unfavorite things, not even favorite, I'm trying to think of other words to say it. I hate this, is this whole, we can charge you $499 or up to 1% of the mortgage on our terms of business. And then I speak to clients, I'm like, have you ever charged up to 1%? No. Then why on earth did you put that on there? It makes things unclear. You need to be very, very crystal clear what your fee is, what they are paying for, when that fee is payable, and on what situations would that fee not be payable. What are the kind of whatever the word is, I'm trying to remember the word, the situations where that would be maybe null and void the fee. But you need to make sure it's really clearly documented in your terms of business, and also when you're talking to people within discovery calls explaining your fee. Now, one of the best ways I find to do this, by the way, is split fees. So making your fee payable at 2 to 3 points within the application, usually either research, application and offer, or application, offer and completion. They're normally the best. You can do on application and an offer, but splitting that fee up and saying to the client, I get paid for the work that I've done and only up to that point, that can actually smoothen out a lot of these processes and a lot of these problems, because people don't get annoyed about it because they've already paid it. So you're getting paid as you go through. It's one of the best ways to iron out any of these issues. The other thing, though, is also clearly defining it is non-refundable and non-transferable to another property might be one of the things you need to look at. Another thing that I think is really important when it comes to fees as well is clearly defining if you are going to give refunds or you are going to transfer that to another case, for example, another mortgage, why and what the parameters would be for that. So a big one I think is quite useful is a fee on application. So like part of that fee, let's say it's £500, £250 on application, £250 on offer. If you pull out, and not if you pull out, sorry, if the house falls through, your house purchase falls through, not the chain collapses, your specific house falls through. The house, they take it off the market. That's pretty much the only time that's going to be the case. They take it off the market, then I would probably say at that point, we would not charge you another fee for rebroking to another, or not, to rebroke it to another lender. I don't think that you should charge on that personally. Again, you do what you want, but I would probably say that's the case. But if the individual pulls out and it's from their own accord, then 100% they should have to pay that fee again, in my opinion. But again, clearly stated. If you don't clearly state this, you will run the risk of confrontation and you will not have a leg to stand on, because when it comes to fees, if it's vague, it won't work. Now, one of the things I used to do with this is when you look at your terms of business, go through your terms of business, write out what you think should be fair and clear, and then do what I call the mum test. Now, why I call it the mum test is when I was an advisor, and I still do this actually now with stuff I do today, but when I was an advisor, I would look at my terms of business or anything I created and I would give it to my mum, who has no understanding of the industry. She has no real understanding of financial literacy of any kind. She's pretty kind of green when it comes to this stuff. She's the average Joe on the street. And if it made sense to my mum, it can make sense to most people, because she's from a performing arts background. She had a different career and different stuff. To me, though, and to my dad and to my sister and to everyone else I know, most of us come from financial services backgrounds. We understand it. But take it to the average person and ask them, does this make sense? What, not actually does it make sense, what does this mean to you? And then you say, look, if you were to find a house and then pull out, what would you think would be that from this, reading this? Ask them. And then ask them, what do you think they should put in it? You've got to get it to the point, and they call it the mum test, get it to the point where literally it is bulletproof. And if it's bulletproof, then you have a solid situation where the client has no leg to stand on when it comes back to claiming fees or querying fees, because you've got a solid base. Another thing I'm a big fan of as well is getting someone to sign an ATP, which is an agreement to proceed, agreeing to all of the things. So making sure, and you do that at the point of agreeing to instruct you, signing that, use a DocuSign if you want to, Go High Level has them built in as well, contracts, getting them to sign an agreement to proceed, that they acknowledge all the stuff you've said. That's absolutely going to increase the chances of them actually paying your fees. Fees are phenomenally good. I think you should be charging fees, but they can be a minefield if you haven't got all the right things in place. So please, please, please get all the right things in place. If you want to increase your sales, not just on fees, check out this video on screen right now, which is a deep dive into sales tactics for mortgage brokers. Give it a click.